Kristi Noem is gonna send you home.
Hello and welcome back to the Reactivist podcast. I'm Marlena Shivo.
The former South Dakota governor, who is now the Secretary of Homeland Security, put on a bulletproof vest, and of course, the mob came after her.
As I said, performative. I mean, I want to show you an image of Kristi Noem, who was just confirmed, the former governor who was confirmed as a Department of Homeland Security. I mean, it's as she's cosplaying. It's almost a game where she seems to be cosplaying, because I'm not sure what she thinks that she's portraying here. She might as well be at Comic-Con.
I wouldn't say this is Comic-Con or theatrics in any way. Kristi Noem was in New York City with ICE during a federal raid where criminals are involved. Weapons could have easily been involved. Do I think she was busting down doors with the agents she was walking with? No, but she was still on the scene. I don't think Joy Reid would walk into that situation without a bulletproof vest. I don't think anyone would walk into that situation without a bulletproof vest. I wouldn't even walk into the situation. I'd be like, you guys got this. Call me when it's over and let me know how it went. And let's not forget that New York is an open carry state, which means anybody can have a firearm on them at any time. Kristi Noem is very familiar with guns, as she herself is quite the sharpshooter. And we know this because there was all of this talk about how she shot her dog and also her goat back in South Dakota. So not only is she dealing with gang members, she is also at risk for being attacked by animal rights activists. Now, I'm not saying animal rights activists would shoot her, but now that she holds a very powerful position as the Secretary of Homeland Security, and people are up in arms, no pun intended, about the removal of illegal immigrants, she's definitely a target of some kind. This is such a far stretch to say that this was Comic-Con or theatrics. It's not theatrics. It's just not. A bulletproof vest will protect you from a bullet. Unlike the other theatrics that we are very familiar with, that one being the mask and it protecting you from absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing is the answer. If you said anything but absolutely nothing, you were wrong. There's your theatrics, Joy Reid. I mean, think about it. Donald Trump was shot at by a country boy in rural Pennsylvania while he was just campaigning. He wasn't even the president yet, and he was targeted. There's definitely a lot of hostility around the current administration, which she is a part of. So yes, bulletproof vest, I approve. Speaking of illegal immigrants, the women at The View have shared many opinions about this, and most recently they had on Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer to talk about the issue of illegal immigrants.
If you're in the country illegally, you got a problem. So even undocumented immigrants with no criminal record are clearly being picked up and are at risk. Is this a fear tactic in your view, or is the plan to just get rid of every undocumented immigrant?
This deportation isn't necessarily about illegal immigrants out of the gate. The first order of action is getting criminals who are here illegally out of the country. And then in terms of illegal immigrants, that's sort of like the next phase of all of this. So I feel like they're sort of mixing it all together.
So few people really appreciate. Michigan actually has the biggest border crossing in the country. It is with Canada. Yeah. And as we think about the conversation, whether it is around immigration and our borders, or it is about tariffs, for instance.
The southern border is really where the issues are. They're not talking about Michigan, and they're not talking about Canadians. I know that all illegal immigration is a talking point, but at no time during all of these conversations having to do with immigration have people talked about busing Canadians from the northern border to sanctuary cities. That was never mentioned at all, Gretchen. And if it was, I apologize, but I don't ever remember that being something people talked about.
An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal because he or she is undocumented. That is a civil offense. So to call people illegals is in and of itself I think, xenophobic and racist.
No, it's not xenophobic. It's factual. If you do not have the proper documentation to be in this country, it doesn't make you a criminal, but it does make you, in fact, illegal. And it's a little weird for Sunny Hostin, of all people, to say or make that distinction. I think the average person, let alone an attorney, would know that anyone who is in any country without the proper documentation is in the category of illegal status. That's just facts.
We have to not lose sight of the fact of what it's going to mean for the American citizen, too.
Yes.
When it costs, talk about increased costs on your blueberries.
Agriculture is obviously something that will be affected when it comes to deporting people who are here undocumented and work in agriculture and pick these said blueberries. If you don't have enough people to pick blueberries, then your production will go down. So you'll produce less blueberries and there will be a shortage of blueberries, and therefore the cost of blueberries will go up. Okay, well, eggs seems to be the common thing that people talk about because I guess the majority of people must eat eggs. I haven't heard much of a crusade when it comes to blueberries. And yeah, I'm kind of being an ass. It's really just about the cost of food in general. But the Democrats have been known to talk about this issue of who's going to do these jobs that nobody wants to do. That in and of itself is a little racist, wouldn't you say? I never heard a conversation about these types of jobs being associated with deporting Canadians. Also this week, RFK Jr.'s confirmation hearing. He did a lot of explaining about his past comments regarding a word I can't say, but starts with a V. And he also was heckled by some activists who are pro-the, which is a stupid term anyway, pro and anti, pro and anti. It's not about being pro or anti. It's just about personal choice and not being forced to do anything through the government. That's all. That's all that is. So you can't say you're pro this and anti that. Like, there's a whole area in the middle there. Period. End of sentence. If you have a cough, no one can force you to take cough medicine, right? So they shouldn't be able to force you to do anything else. The theatrics I spoke about earlier with the masks, no one should be forced to put anything on their body for the sake of doing it, especially when there's absolutely zero efficacy. Out of the mouth of the man whose name I'm not going to mention, but who was preemptively pardoned recently, who said in his own words in an email that these face masks that you buy are not effective. Now I can hear the criticism already, so I'm gonna get ahead of it if possible. It's your choice of where you go, what you do, and who you speak to. And if you want to put face covering on or put a bag over your head, you do you. Don't tell me what to wear on my face. That's it. It's that simple, right? So back to the beginning. It's not about pro or anti. It's about choice. Let's say it all together. It's about choice. But anyway, Elizabeth Warren was not very kind when asked about RFK.
I am concerned about the Kennedy because it's a danger to our children and to the health of everyone in the United States.
I can't imagine that she's talking about the fast food industry or that she is upset that RFK doesn't want pesticides and other chemicals in the food that we eat. I can't imagine that not wanting chemicals and pesticides in our food is putting people at danger. So she can't possibly be talking about that. It's not wrong to not want foods that are riddled with preservatives that have been sitting on a shelf in a grocery store or a convenience store for way too long, packaged in plastic, and the chemicals from the plastic are seeping into the foods themselves. I mean, I can't imagine putting anyone at risk for implementing regulations and new standards for food that we put in our body. That's not putting people in danger. It seems counterintuitive to putting people in danger. We are one of the unhealthiest developed countries in the world. We just are. I think that any effort, whether it's RFK or whoever in government, wants to put forth towards making the people in this country healthier through foods and other natural ways of being healthy. I think that that is a step in the right direction. And I think a step away from pharmaceuticals being used to keep people healthy is a step in the right direction. And if RFK can somehow manage that, I'm here for it. What we really need, what we really truly need, is a step away from screens and social media. And I know this is a topic that is talked about a lot, but it really is an unbelievable force. And it's not a force of good. Kids do not know how to use technology responsibly because they're not adults, right? And the influence that comes through these phones and these iPads is damaging, and it's hypnotizing. The fact that you can set screen time limits for your kids, and I guess for yourself too, but for your kids, says a lot. It means it needs to be regulated, right? They wouldn't have time limits on screens. They wouldn't have filters. These things wouldn't exist if these screens weren't a problem and this technology wasn't a problem. So we could talk about physical health 6 ways to Sunday, but mental health is just as important. We're still in the first 100 days of Trump's administration, and there have been a lot of changes. The left is still very angry, that's for sure. So, the more things change, the more they stayed the same, I guess, in that regard. However, the one thing that's not staying the same is the White House press corps. That's right. The new White House press secretary for Donald Trump, Caroline Leavitt, made her debut, and she said that they are opening up the press room to non-traditional media, non-legacy media, because they recognize that no one's sitting in their living room watching CNN. A lot of people get their information, the younger generations for sure, get their information online. People who are influencers or have a platform like a podcaster, I'm going to put in my application. All of you people who say I'm MAGA, you should root for me to be in that room. That would be amazing. I don't even know if I want to ask a question. I think I would just love to be there to listen, observe, and of course, react. And then come back to this chair, report, and let you decide. So what do you think? Would you like to see me in the White House press corps? Please